Hello, my friends. Hey, this is Kylen Hunt with Kylen Hunt and Company, and we are excited to be really after a couple of months towards the end of summer here, and with harvest and everything, we've taken a couple of months and we haven't done an elite leader training program in a while. So we're getting these ramped back up again for another year, and we're really excited to be bringing these to you. Now, when we talk about an elite leader program, normally we're going to bring in someone from the industry that most of us are in, or agriculture, but a lot of times we'll just bring in people that are outside of agriculture, but that have done amazing things in sales, amazing things in business, amazing things in a lot of different industries, because anytime we can learn from somebody who's doing amazing things, we grow in amazing ways.
Well, and so for me, I thought it would be a great idea to have to interview Kylen, as he is the one that does a lot of our teaching and training, and just kind of get to know where he's come from and where he gets most of his training from, just kind of to dive a little deeper into him. And so
that's spooky.
Well, I thought of some questions I could ask you in front of everybody, but I decided, no, I'll be kind.
I'll bet before it's over, you're going to want to ask those questions.
So we're going to go ahead and get started, and hopefully we get a few more on here. But if not, we are recording this. This will be available in the TLS.
It'll be available
in leaders.
In the community.
So.
All right. Well, let's kick it off. What do you want to know?
Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. And first thing we kind of want to hear about is, how did you grow up and where did you grow up?
How did I grow up? Well, how I grew up was a challenge. So I was actually the firstborn in my family. So I was the experiment. That's what I always tell everybody. You're the experiment when you're the firstborn. You didn't get that privilege. So being the firstborn in my family, it was a lot of opportunity for me and a lot of challenges at the same time. But more than anything were the opportunities that came my way. And most of my opportunities were in some way tied to my grandfather. My grandfather was the greatest mentor I ever had. He really was. He became a very, very wealthy farmer in the 80s. So a lot of the thinking that I have today, to be able to stretch outside the box and think to a different capacity, really came from my grandfather. It wasn't something that I just thought of, all on my own. It was actually something that my grandfather helped instill in me, which is a bigger thinking, a possibility thinking, a potential thinking. And we lived in a very small community called Arcadia, Nebraska, a little town of about 400 people. And back in the early 80s, my grandfather was actually the first person to plant soybeans in Valley County, Nebraska. At least that's the way we understood it at that time, is that no one else had really done that. So my grandfather, being a leader in the ag industry, really wanted to stretch out in the 80s and find a way to add more value to people. And he knew that there was tremendous value in this soybean product, but it was a little bit different than anybody had ever really done at that time. There was no Roundup, there was no all this other stuff. So it was really a challenge for him. And working through those challenges in the 80s was really encouraging for me. Now, the problem is, in the 80s, I wasn't really paying attention to the leadership that my grandfather brought. I was partying, I was having a great time, and I would work with my grandfather, who I greatly respected, but I didn't grasp the real opportunity that he was proposing to me in our family and in our operation until it was really too late. And looking back on it now, I can see how great of a leader he was. I could see how amazing he was. But at the time, I was more interested in doing my thing and just wasn't really grasping the opportunity. So when I talking with younger people today, and I'm talking with parents who have young kids today, it's finding the ways to help a young parent, to help a young person today who's raising their family, to really step up and say, hey, what kind of possibility and what kind of potential can we bring to these young kids today? And not just let them do whatever they want, not just let them run the household, if you will, but truly structure and develop people. And that's what my grandpa did to me. And I look back on my life, and he was just one of the greatest mentors I ever had. And that's such a huge part of my past.
That your grandpa was a pretty awesome guy.
Yeah.
So when you and I met all those many years ago, you were a truck driver, and we kind of did the jack of all trades, master of none for a while. We did some switching of careers in there. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but at one point in time, Kylen sold used cars in Lincoln. It was a very short-lived career, but
yeah.
So let me ask you, with going from the ag background, going from the truck driving background, because you did that for probably the first 14 years of our marriage. What was your aha moment? The moment where you decided that this leadership and this business development, working with entrepreneurs was what you wanted to do?
I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur when I was still in high school. I didn't know what it was called. I know I was in my late 20s before I even heard the word entrepreneur and had ever even known what it was. But I always knew that I wanted to do something on my own. And it wasn't that I had anything against anybody else, against an employer. I grew up with a couple of really, really good employers through high school. But I also knew by watching the employers that they did things differently. They had different opportunities. They worked at a different scale. And I love to work from the earliest ages of my life. I made my first money when I was 5 years old. And I'll never forget my very first paycheck at 5 years old. It took me almost 2 days to fill our manure spreader, but I was 5. And after that 2 days and that manure spreader was completely full, I got a check for $5. That was my first paycheck for $5. And I kept that $5 for so long because it was so impactful to me. That was the first real money that I had made. And I began to realize that if I would work, I would get something in return. There was a payback. And as I went through my elementary age and I went through high school, and I began to realize that people worked in different capacities, these business owners versus the people who worked for them, I began to realize I wanted to be a business owner. And then, of course, watching my grandfather be a farmer and a business owner, both, I began to realize that's really is what I want. And the problem is I didn't know how to get it. But because I was watching so many different people, I knew that they worked by project. I knew that they didn't just work by an hour, they worked by project. And when they needed something done, they found people to get things done for them, right? And they were really, really good at gathering people together. And I didn't even call it leadership at the time, but they knew how to lead people. And that was something that I really wanted to be able to do in my life. So I began to watch very carefully these individuals that were running businesses. Problem is, I didn't make the best decisions in our early 20s when I bought our first business. In fact, this is the way it went down. So I'm out working with a group of friends, and I was actually an employee at the time. And one of the guys come up and he said, "Hey, do you want to buy one of our businesses?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "We're going to sell our fuel business. and we're going to sell all the trucks. We're going to sell all the tanks. We're going to sell the whole business. Are you interested in buying it? And I didn't even stutter. I'm like, yes, I'll do it. And him and I, we went to the bank. I mean, right out of the yard, we were literally harvesting. Him and I jumped in the pickup. We drove to the bank, and I signed papers on buying this fuel business. And then I went home and told my wife about it. And
I do not recommend doing that.
probably not the greatest idea in the world, just to be in your early 20s and go buy a business and then tell your wife about it, because that was a long night.
Yeah. Long,
So,
yeah, it was more than a night.
Long story short, though, I was not ready to be an entrepreneur. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone to help me. I didn't understand the business side of entrepreneurship. So as hard as I worked, it still didn't work. That was the problem. I worked my tail off, but I didn't understand business structure and business design. I didn't understand what growth compared to scale was. There's a difference between growth and scale. And as I began to lose our business, it got harder and harder, and I worked harder and harder. I'll never forget one night I was out with my fuel truck unloading fuel at a pivot, and it was a large tank, so I knew I wasn't going to overflow the tank. And it's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm delivering fuel to a farm well. And I was so tired that I sat down on the edge of the truck and next to the rear wheels of the truck, and I fell asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I fell asleep while my truck was pumping fuel into this tank. And the only thing that woke me up was the train that went by.
Yeah.
A train went by and woke me up. I was so stinking tired. And I'll never forget what it was like to be, challenged that much in the business space, and to have those challenges. And it was so discouraging for me as an entrepreneur to go bankrupt just about 3 years later.
Yeah.
And we completely bankrupt the business, and we were probably more broke in our mid-20s than we were when we got married early on. And it was really, really painful. It was a painful event for her, extremely painful for her, because she was at home calling a lot of people, and I had started driving truck again and moving forward with a trucking company, which made it really, really hard on our marriage and several other things going on in our life. Well, long story short, we got the trucking company going. We worked a few jobs here and there, and we got back up on our feet in some ways, but it was only about 8 years later, and we went bankrupt again because we didn't understand this thing called entrepreneurship and business.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so discouraged. And there were so many other things that went along with that, including our jail cell experience, which we don't know if we'll get back into that, but there were just so many things that went along with that caused us financial heartache, that we were spending money in ways we shouldn't have been spending money.
Well, that, and I think for the fact that, especially you wanted it so bad. You wanted that entrepreneurship. You wanted that business so bad. And we had no idea what we were doing, or nobody guiding us. And it was one of those things, you get to a point in a business that you need help, but you don't want to spend the money for help. So it's, I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
And that cost us, trying to figure out how to do it ourselves cost us a lot of money.
It was the most devastating thing we ever did, was not spend money on a business coach, to not spend money on the things that we promote today, because the money that I quote unquote saved put me in bankruptcy.
Well,
honestly.
And I remember when you first started into reading the books on leadership and business, and you'd tell me stuff like that. And I was like, oh man, this man is nuts. he is crazy if he thinks that we're going to do that. Well, you got to invest here. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it's funny listening to it today, because now it makes a lot of sense. But back then I just thought you were insane.
Well, it felt a little insane to me. What really got me started in leadership and business development, personal development, was a quote that I don't even know where it came from, but it was a John Maxwell quote that said, everything rises and falls on leadership, everything. And I was like, whatever. At that point in time, we had been into some churches and some different things where the leadership was not good.
Mm-hmm.
And leadership to me was a joke. I mean, it was just completely a joke in many different ways. And I was not impressed with leadership. So leadership, as I knew it in our late 20s, early 30s, was a complete joke. So when I read this statement or got it from someone that said everything rises and falls on leadership, I'm like, okay, whatever. Well, I dug a little bit deeper into it because I couldn't get the thought out of my mind. And part of that was because we'd experienced really bad leadership. And I began to realize what they were saying. The businesses that had gone belly up, they went belly up because of bad leadership.
Yeah.
And I began to look at my own business that you were a part of with me and struggled so much with. Our business failed because of my leadership. It failed because I didn't know the laws of influence. I didn't understand what it took to communicate properly and to properly run through business programs and structures. I had no clue. So that's when I started really to focus in on developing myself. And we did that for about 5-6 years before we went back into business. And that's why I'm so passionate today about small business owners and entrepreneurs, because without strong leadership, they're nearly guaranteed to fail.
So with that being said, here's my next question for you. What was the hardest transition that you had to make? Mindset wise, you get to thinking on one rail, but you need to switch it and turn it around and go the other direction. So what do you think was the hardest transition that you had to make?
The hardest transition for me was to the working in the business versus working on the business. I grew up milking cows. I grew up farming. And one of the rules of nature farming is you do the work yourself. You got to do the work. You got to do the work. You got to do the work. And to understand real leadership, we got to know how to lead people who do a lot of the physical work, where leaders are doing a lot of the intense thinking, the details into the work, into the business. And that's part of working on the business, right? That was a very, very hard transition for me, because I would get so involved in doing that I was not involved in being a leader. I was involved in doing the business, but not being the leader. And bar none, even yet today, as you well know, that's still a struggle for me, because I enjoy doing things, but there's a time when I need to be a leader. I need to step up and be leading. So there's a huge difference. And that was probably the biggest mindset challenge for me, is learning how to lead versus just stepping in and doing.
Well, there's a lot of control there too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues with, I want to make sure it gets done right. I want to make sure it gets done. So I'm just going to do it, which that's a hard lesson that we've had to learn, trying to do it all, especially, I say with me, I've tried to do so many things that I've never gotten really good at any one thing. And that was a hard lesson to learn, to let some of that either let it go or let somebody else do it to transition into that. Do you have any more on that?
Well, the thing that I would encourage people to look at, and it was another thing that I had to get through in my own head and my own mindset, is focusing what I'm really good at. And what I learned when I was doing a lot of the work, let's take our experience in precision ag. I was not good at precision agriculture, but what I was good at was communicating precision agriculture. And I was good at communicating opportunities that precision agriculture would bring. I was good at connecting people to a thought, to an idea, but to actually do the work associated with precision agriculture, I was horrible at it. And I wouldn't allow myself to see that early on. And I tried so hard to do the work. I tried so hard to learn the software. In fact, I trained on software for years and years on how to do this precision ag work. But in the back of it, I really never fully understood it. I could communicate it and I could help others understand it that knew how to do it, but I didn't really know it myself. And I would spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out formulas and different types of prescription programs. And I was horrible at it. But I was so dead set on becoming a master in this industry that I was working on my weaknesses. And what it did is it really made sure I was average.
Right.
I ended up being very, very average in the precision ag space. And I hated that. I just hated it because I was working too hard to be average. And when I began to realize that my real skill and my gift and my talent was in communicating, and it was in taking a thought, an idea, and turning it into something that somebody else could actually elevate and grow, that's when I began to really excel. I'm not that good at doing all these things myself, but I'm really good at helping other people do it.
Yeah.
And be amazing at it. And as I began to realize that my skills and gifts and talents are in helping other people grow and develop, that's when it really started to take off. And that's when our precision ag business started to take off. And I know it was pretty frustrating for you because I was having you do things on the software that I was just horrible at, and you didn't know how to do because you didn't understand the agronomy side. So it caused us a lot of problems. But guys, if there's any one thing that I would really share with you with this is learn what your strengths are. Know what your strengths are in terms of your skill set, and then look at your strengths in terms of your character and your personal self, the character within you, and identify what is my skill set that I'm really good at, better than anybody else, and then how do I relate my character strength to that? That was huge. When I could identify my character weaknesses and strengthen them, identify my skill strengths and strengthen them together, I grew substantially. And that began to really change the way, well, when we went to crop metrics, I was already in the growth stages of that development at that point in time. And it allowed me to help build other people. And had that not happened, we wouldn't be doing this today.
Right.
I can guarantee you.
So this is kind of a personal question, I guess.
Oh boy, here they come.
No, nothing bad, but why are you so passionate about leadership development and entrepreneurship? Why is it that
Because this is personal. Because I hurt my family a lot. Because my inability to lead people, my inability to even lead myself, my inability to be what my family needed me to be, it drives me today. It motivates me. It creates passion inside of me to help other people build something amazing in their life, because I screwed up so bad so many years of our life. And, the first 22, 23 years of our marriage was horrible in many ways because of my lack of understanding leadership and business. And when I think about that, it motivates me, because I don't want anybody else struggling the way that you and I struggled, especially young people that want to build something. And the second part of that was in the last 5 or 6 years, about the last 5 years, I've watched entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, some of them, build businesses that are 6-figure income businesses, but the entire business is reliant upon them for success. And if anything happens to that one person, that business fails. That business goes downhill literally in a matter of weeks or a month. And in the last 2 years, I know personally 2 people who have passed away in the agronomy world, and their wives. These guys are both in their mid to late 50s. Mm-hmm. And their families, their wife and their children, were left with less than $500,000 in their mid 50s. And that's after life insurance. And one family was substantially less than that after paying off the debt. And I remember thinking, that is a problem. That is a massive problem. These men had worked 30 years of their life to leave their family with little to nothing.
Right.
And I began thinking, we're entrepreneurs. We're leaders in this industry. Why are people hurting like this? Why do families get left behind? Why does a mother, that one of the most powerful people in the world today is a mother? And it breaks my heart that men can work so hard and then have nothing if something goes wrong. And women. The women do work hard, but when a man works so hard on that business that something happens to him and the wife struggles as a result, it is devastating to me. And that's why I want to see people build teams.
Right.
I want to see people build multiple layers of business, because then they've got opportunity not only for their own family, but to help everyone else in that organization. Everyone, I've seen tremendous leaders. John Maxwell's one of them. I love John because of how he helps people. He's very well off today, but he's got layers and layers and layers of people in his organization, and he serves them. He helps them because together they built something amazing. And now they're able to help and serve each other. And that's leadership. The scriptures, which, I'm very much a person of faith, right? And in the scriptures, it talks a lot about the rich and the poor and all these different things, money, right? Well, the one thing that we know is we don't take money with us, but we take with us the opportunity to serve people, right? And I don't want to just build something big for us to consume. Right. I want to build something that can serve other people and take care of other people. And that's what I want to help entrepreneurs do, is build something that's very powerful, that they can turn around and help everybody that helped them. They can help in return and take care of those families, take care of that team, take care of them together. That just motivates and drives me. But it has to take somebody who wants to build something amazing.
Well, that's kind of where our tagline comes from.
Yeah.
Serve others. Take the wisdom.
Yep.
Take what you've learned and take it out and serve others.
Yep. Well, our tagline, if you're wondering, is seek truth, gain wisdom, serve others. And the reason that we talk about seek truth is because I lived a lot of the lies. I believed that the whole purpose in building a business was just for us, and nothing's further from the truth. It's to develop all the people that are taking this journey with you.
Right.
So there was a lie that I was believing. And as I began to understand that business is this opportunity to build myself and others, then it began to open up. It's like, that's the truth, right? And out of that is wisdom, because all of us are better than just one of us. And that really began to drive and motivate me. And it began to that, well, that's where the tagline come from.
Yeah.
Seek truth, gain wisdom, serve others. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is one habit you would strongly encourage entrepreneurs to adopt?
For me, it's easy, because if you don't do this, you're going to wake up every day being the same person you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay. The habit is this: invest in yourself 1 hour a day, every day. Invest 1 hour in yourself. Develop that habit. I can promise you, you'll spend an hour on social media. You'll spend an hour in front of the television. You'll spend an hour doing something. But if you will invest 1 hour a day and build that as a habit into your life, where you are either reading something to make your character issues better, you're in the scripture learning how to make yourself better spiritually, you're in the gym doing something with your physical body, you are doing something for a minimum 1 hour every day to improve yourself, I will guarantee you will get better. And that personal growth, that personal development is priceless. Number one, most important habit you can develop is put on your calendar 1 hour every day for you. Nobody else, just for you. Have to have it.
I think that's awesome. So we're only at 30 minutes here. We've got about another 30 minutes left on the call. And I have gone through all of my interview questions, except one. But so
well, yeah, we can have, people can ask questions if they have questions.
If anybody has a question,
raise
go
your
ahead
hand and we'll ask questions. But
so out of our services that we have, I know because I've learned a lot just listening to you. I can probably say I don't read as many books as you do, but I don't have to, because you tell me a lot of what they say. I know part of the learning curve through here has been the DISC. And if you don't know what the DISC is, that is our personality assessment that is part of our company. And I do tell everybody that is probably what saved our marriage, because especially back in the day when you first started on this journey of leadership development and working with entrepreneurs. And like I said, I would just think you were insane when you would tell me some of this stuff. But I know when you would tell me the things, I didn't hear it as you intended to say it, I guess. You were trying to inform me, but all I could hear was, we need to do this, you need to change, you need to do this. And it was very difficult for a long time. And I know for us, it was to the point that I kind of shut you off. And then I got to the point that I was almost, you wanted to do this, so I didn't want to do that just for the fact that you wanted to do that. And we went through that for a very long time. And so our DISC assessment, I think, is I'm a service junkie. I don't know if all of you know, but I was a server for 30 years, my absolute favorite job. I loved working with the people, but I am a service junkie. And I know, working in that industry, that communication is huge. And I think that is in any business that you have. Communication is huge. And that service and communication will make or break any business.
I think communication will communication by itself will either make or break a business. And even in our business, the early days of our fuel business and our trucking business, our lack of communication, we would talk to each other.
We would talk at each other.
Yeah. And we would fight, we would argue. So we were talking, we weren't communicating.
No.
Big difference, big difference.
Well, and we're still learning. Even doing this now, you and I are still continuing every day to learn something new.
Yeah.
And things come up of, oh, well, I never looked at it like that, I guess. And it's gotten easier. I take it a little bit better than I used to, I think. Yes.
Sometimes.
But it's,
I don't always give it the best chance. So that's the problem. I still don't communicate as well as I should.
But I think one of the differences, doing that disc assessment, we kind of know, I know how you need to hear things and how you need to talk through things.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come at me with maybe a new project or something to do, I need the plan. I have to have the plan. And it's so huge when you figure that out. When you figure out your personality style, but then the people that you're communicating with, whether it's your clients, your customers, your spouse, your significant other, your parents, anybody that you're communicating with, on how you need to talk through things, to discuss things, to work through things, to.
You're talking about the disc, and as I'm hearing you talk through this, and those of you that have taken the disc, which I think everybody on here that's listening has, if you're watching the recording, maybe you haven't taken the disc. If you haven't, reach out to us and let us. We'll definitely get you set up with a disc assessment, because it is game changing. Those of you that are familiar with it, though, it's D up in the top left corner, the I in the top right corner, the S in the bottom right corner, and the C in the bottom left. And the I is who I am, and the C is who you are primarily. I mean, you got a lot of strong C traits. So we're on the opposite end of each other, the opposite end of these spectrums. And there's times when we can very much get on each other's nerves a lot. I mean, more than just a little bit. It's so easy to trigger her, and it's so easy for her to trigger me and explode, right? Because the thing is, if we're not aware of what causes someone else to explode or set them off, it's so easy to do. And when you're in a sales space, when you're in a leadership space, you may not set them off like you and I do, but you may push them off.
Right.
You push them off, and then they're not communicating with you anymore. They're either shut down emotionally, they're shut down mentally, or they're just not going to call you back. They're not going to work with you, or even worse yet, and we're seeing this all over the country right now, people leave companies.
Right.
We're seeing this big, recession of people leaving companies. People don't leave companies, people leave people.
Right.
Okay. And that's because a lot of leadership today doesn't know how to really truly connect and work with different people. So the disc, to your point, has worked for us because we're aware that you need this process and a plan. I'm on the other end of that. I'm like, hey, I got this idea, let's run with it. And I'm just throwing stuff out, and I'm just running through this thing, and you're sitting there going, whoa, massive overload. And even though I'm talking 100 miles an hour, you're not hearing one word, because no part of the plan is there. So you're not hearing one thing that I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's where we have had to learn how to communicate differently. I've had to step back and say, hey, I got this amazing idea, but I'll sit in my office with that amazing idea until I get some kind of a structure behind it. And then I can go out to you and say, hey, I got a thought. What do you think about this? And show you something. And then you're better able to do something with it.
Well, it sinks in a little better. And, on the other side of that, because you said, what triggers me and what doesn't. But when we are in sync, we work very well together.
Oh, yeah, it's
because,
amazing. Yeah,
you know, your strengths are so different from mine.
yeah,
And excuse me. And we complement each other.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. When you understand just how different you are, and you understand what's pushing you away from people and what's causing you to not get a sale, causing you to lose people, causing you to create turnover, to not have the culture that you want. When you begin to realize that you're the cause of that, you can fix it, right? You can fix it. Here's the thing that I've learned. We'll just use sales as an example. A customer has never, ever been the cause of a lost sale. That's what I've learned. It may take me 3 years to get someone to buy from me, but the customer is not the cause of a lost sale. I am. If I have something that is valuable for them, I'm the one who didn't understand the connection. I didn't know how to work the process. And that's something that I had to learn. If I would have known that when we were still had our businesses, we would have kept those businesses. We wouldn't have went bankrupt. We would have been still successful. And I didn't know how to do that. Had no recollection of it. So those are things that the disc has helped us realize, is that we are the cause of the challenges in our own life. And once you realize that we're the cause of it and we have to connect with people in different ways, then we get to choose the outcomes that we're creating. And that's the crazy part about leadership and personal growth and development, is the more you learn about who you are, the more you know what to do with your life.
Well, so much of that personal development and leadership, it's so hard, especially when I'm reading the books or I'm watching the videos and they're like, you need to start doing this. And I'm like, oh, but I don't want to do that. And, you know, and a lot of them say, oh, get up at 4:30 in the morning and go work out and start your day and spend an hour. Like 4:30 in the morning. Are you kidding me? Or the ones that say, step out of your comfort zone. Okay, no, I don't want to do that. And it's that there's that mindset of, I can't do that. And I always, especially with you, because it's taken a lot for me to get out of my comfort zone. This is really not my comfort place. And I actually feel like I'm doing okay today, but
you're doing great.
This is not my comfort space. So this has been a step for me, but I don't know the exact saying. It's something about, but what if I fall? And the other part is, yes, but what if you soar? You know, what if you fly? I had a fear for a very long time after going through that bankruptcy, because we lost everything. We lost our house. We lost the car. It was very, very rough. And
I had a $700 car and you had a $400 van.
Yeah.
Our total accumulated value in two vehicles was $1,100.
You know, I do have to say it was a blessing that we had vehicles. But it was just going through that was so hard that when you started talking about building a business again, my first thing was, I can't breathe. I can't do this again. And it was really hard for me to get past that point. But I'm so glad that we did. And it's been very eye-opening, and it's still a journey. But
well, what I probably have never really told you, it was hard for me too. It was really, really hard for me to get back into the business that we did, because I had already been the cause of 2 failures at that point, and all the other things that had gone on in our life. I was the big cause of it. And to step back into business, even though I wanted it so bad, it scared me to death. And I wasn't sure I wanted to do it, honestly, because there was comfort in getting my paycheck. There was comfort in knowing that every other Friday I had a check that was coming in. And even though the check was frustrating because it wasn't very much. It was one of those things that's like, I can't do anything with this check. I'm not able to be who I want to be. I'm not able to do what I want to do. And I'm not able to serve the way I wanted to serve. And that's probably what finally motivated me, because there was just so many other people I wanted to serve and I wasn't able to. But I was scared. I was scared to jump back into business. But I think what drove me beyond the fear was how much I knew we could do. And I think that's part of what drove us to another business was I had learned in my failures. I knew that if I could become the person, not just do the work, but become the person that the business needed, then I knew we could be successful. But I had to do more than just do the work. I had to be the person. I had to be the leader. And that was a big change for me. So that was driving some of the fear. You know, after that, we were quite successful before we went to work at Crop Metrics, and Crop Metrics, we were successful in a lot of ways. And even that, though, when I look back at it, I was struggling with fear through that. And especially in the early days, I would wake up at night fearful that I was screwing up, because stepping into leadership and stepping into that position of authority and influence was a very, very scary thing. I just hid it. You don't hide it very well. I hid it really well. But I was scared to death. I really was. Today, it's not as fearful for me because we've been through it, but there's still times when fear gets into my life.
All right.
But I have to know how to get through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we work together on it differently now than we did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, we work on it substantially different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're down to about 13 minutes. So my last, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask Kylen, bring them on. Now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
But last question I'm going to ask you is for our viewers. What is something that you would love them to take away? What is a little golden nugget that you'd like to give them today?
The golden nugget I would challenge you with is this. Inside of you is a leader, is an influencer, is someone that is striving to get out and make a bigger impact. There is someone inside of you that just wants to make the world a better place, that just wants to do something amazing. And I will challenge you, even if you feel like that person doesn't exist anymore, if you feel like you don't know what your dream or your purpose is in life, if you feel like you don't know what it is that you're supposed to be doing with this life, I can promise you this: you are created on purpose for a purpose. And that purpose isn't little. That purpose is greatness. Les Brown probably says it the best. He said, there is greatness within you. You got to get it out.
Yeah.
There is greatness within you. And Les Brown has done such an amazing job of sharing that with people. And he's right. There is absolute greatness in every single one of you. And that doesn't mean that you have to go out and start some new off the wall business. It means that you can take the opportunity that's right in front of you right now, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, and think about it bigger. Think about if you're serving 50 people today, if you served, 100 people, how much more impact could you make? If your products and services are good enough to serve the existing client base that you have, and you doubled it, how many more people could you serve? Right? How many more people could you serve? Think about the greatness that's inside of you and start working every day to draw it out, to draw it out. That's my golden nugget for you, is don't let that greatness that's created in you stay in you. Get it out and let it serve the world, serve the people, because it wants to. And the fear of life, the fear of past limitations, the fear of past failures, the fears of our history, the fears of what people have told us we can't do or we can't be. It's the fears that people have limited up on us that are preventing us from revealing that greatness to the world. Because I can promise you, God made you for a reason that's bigger than anything you've done today. If you are still using oxygen and you are still breathing, there is a big purpose in front of you. And I honestly believe that our job is to draw that out and to live it to the utmost. So that's my golden nugget. Don't let the greatness die inside of you. Draw it out and let the world have it. So that's I don't know about that, but I get very passionate about this, guys. I love to help you be successful. You know, our training programs are designed in such a way to help you see yourself at another level. I hope that's what our programs can do, is help you see yourself at another level. Because if you can't see yourself at another level, then we're not getting that vision out there well enough, in my opinion, because that's what it's all about. It has to happen in your mind. You have to be able to see it to achieve it. But once you see it and then you believe it, you can achieve it.
All right.
That's what I will guarantee it. But a lot of people see it, but they don't believe it, and therefore they never achieve it. But you have to see it first in your mind. You have to see yourself in a position of greatness. You have to see yourself doing something that the world so badly needs right now, and you're the one delivering it. And you have to see yourself in that, and then you have to believe. You have to believe that you have the potential to do it.
Yeah. And
then, only then, can you achieve it. But if you miss that belief system about yourself, you will not achieve it. You will not achieve it. And that's how you get that greatness out to the world.
Well, what do you keep telling me, especially here the last few days, is what you think about grows.
Yeah.
What you focus on.
What you focus on grows. Absolutely.
And if you're focusing on I can't.
Yep. You won't.
Yeah.
If you focus on what you can't do, I'll guarantee you won't do it. I'll promise you that. If you want to build if you want to build a business that's 10 times bigger than what you have right now, as soon as you tell yourself all the reasons you can't do it or that it won't work, I will guarantee you it'll never happen.
No.
It'll never happen. But go tell Richard Branson he can't do it. Okay. Go tell Elon Musk he can't do it. Okay. Go tell these guys that they can't do something, and they'll prove you wrong every time. Okay. Yep. That's what I have.
All right. Does anybody have any questions?
Thoughts or comments? You're free to tell me I'm crazy too. She's done it a few times. You're free to tell me. I'm all game for that. All right. Well, if there's no other thoughts or comments, guys, I do want to thank you for investing time with us over your noon hour today. If you're taking a noon hour, thank you for investing your time here. You could have pulled up Netflix and watched a show, and instead you invested your time with us. So thank you. And I hope that we're able to deliver a golden nugget for you. I hope that there's something here that you can take from this and expand your life to the next level, because that's what I believe you're here for. I believe that with all my heart. And I've been through enough failures to know that there is more within you. And I just want you to know that. I want you to take it out and love yourself, love the world that you're living in, and go make a big difference.
Well, thank you. Thanks for
Yep.
for telling us your story. I like hearing it. I enjoy hearing it.
You've lived it.
So I know, but it's different perspectives.
Maybe one of these days we'll have to do that comedy show about our life, because there's a lot of comedy in it.
And it would
too.
be very funny. It would be hilarious.
Wasn't funny at
So
the time.
these are going to be once a month, like we said, it'd be the first Friday of every month. I have sent everybody a Google invite. If you didn't get it, let me know. You can text me, email me, whatever I can do to help. And I'll send out reminders every once in a while, maybe a few days before, just let everybody know.
Yep.
And so thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next month.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.